Hey, 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 Trundle Talks, it's Trundle Talks, it's Trundle Talks, it's Trundle Talks. Welcome, everybody. I'm your host, Sajit Nair, and this is season 2 of Trundle Talks. Now, we are very excited for this new season. We've got some great guests lined up for you and some amazing conversation topics. For tonight's episode, we are actually going to dig into one of the burning topics that has been doing rounds on LinkedIn and other social media as well. Going to talk about migrating from Jira server to Jira Cloud. Now, we've got an amazing team from Atlassian who's going to be talking to us today. So let's dive in. We have Vineet, Abhijit, and Partha from Atlassian joining us today, and we are very glad that we are going to talk about one of the most talked about topics on LinkedIn, on Slack channels, on WhatsApp groups, which is migrating from Jira Server to Jira Cloud. Now, before we begin, gentlemen, I would like you to quickly introduce yourself. Let's start from you, Abhijit.
Hi. Thanks, Sajid. Thanks for having us here. I'm Abhijit, and I'm a dev manager in Atlassian. I'm responsible for the migrations platform team in Bangalore, which is part of. And I was chatting with Sajid before we started. Like Jira Cloud, there is no single team; there are multiple teams. So this is one major chunk of that. And yeah, we are. So I joined Atlassian. Um, it's now a little over a couple of years. So it's been an amazing journey. When I joined, it was, I guess, 40 of them, all put together, probably 20 devs, and 10 of them were. Uh, uh, After 40, 20 devs, there were 10 talent acquisitions and 10 supports, and from there now we are close to 800. So it's been an amazing journey for us. Yeah, and migrations platform team is one of the most I would say critical part of the whole Atlassian. At this point of time, we are working on the number one objective for Atlassian. So yeah, it's been quite exciting so far. Yeah, with that, probably I'll pass the baton to Vineet.
So thanks Abhijit, and thanks Ajit. My name is Vineet. I again joined around the same time as Abhijit did. I'm a principal product manager in the migrations platform team. Been working, with Abhijit and some of the other folks on the team, and the team has grown, as Abhijit mentioned. Prior to Atlassian, I was with Amazon for about 4.5 years, and then a bunch of startups before that for about 8 years. So yeah, really happy to be part of this podcast.
Thank you.
Over to you, Partha.
Yeah, thanks, Vineet. And so my name is Partha Kamal. I've been part of Atlassian for 13 years now. Most of that time I've been actually part of the customer support and success team, looking at strategy for that team. One of the fun facts about that was, as part of that, I came to India to open up the Bangalore office. So I was part of that initial team, and now I head up migrations. Have been heading up migrations for the last 3 years, and as Abhijit mentioned, it's a number one priority for Atlassian at the moment.
Awesome. Thank you guys for joining us today. So without further ado, I'm going to just straight jump into the burning question, which is, why was a deadline put into place for the end of sale of server licenses? Now, I'm going to be the devil's advocate here. I know that the theme has been the same. Like we've talked about it in summits, we've seen the communication that the focus is towards the cloud. What was the whole idea behind putting a deadline when the communication came out?
Okay, I can talk to that. So, as you mentioned, we haven't been shy about talking about the future is cloud, right? We believe the long-term success of Atlassian, as well as the long-term success and happiness of our customers, will be in cloud, right? You can see that from the industry as well. More and more companies are starting in the cloud and only being cloud, or more and more companies are moving towards cloud as well. So when you look at the competitive landscape as well, there's a lot of pressure coming about cloud, and we're also getting that pressure from our customers as well. So there's a huge amount of demand around cloud. So 95% of our new customers were choosing cloud, and our existing customers were also saying, hey, when are you going to meet our requirements for cloud as well? So that was kind of like the background. As part of that, our number one strategy within Atlassian is shifting to become a cloud-first company, right? Which involves making cloud our best experience for our customers. So we needed to close any gaps in features, help our ecosystem, be able to build on cloud and be able to take the beloved server apps and build it on cloud as well. So why now? Why was that kind of deadline put? So as the server business was declining, right, and more of our investment was going into data center and cloud, we just felt like, to be true to our values, we needed to be open company, and needed to say, like, it's not okay for us to keep selling server and having customers choose that if all of our investments are going into data center and cloud. And so because of that, because of that value, we decided, okay, we need to align our customers to where our investment is going, and we need to be open about it. And so we decided to end of sale server, as well as give our existing customers, over 3 years to kind of move towards either data center or cloud. And in that time, we're also working. We've done a lot of things over the last few years to meet our customers' cloud requirements, but we still know there's some more, and we're determined to kind of complete that over the next 3 years.
Sure, and I totally get that. Yeah, Abhijit, go ahead.
No, I'll just add to that what Partha said. For example, and Partha was talking about investing into cloud and data center. Incidentally, Vineet and I both joined as part of server and with all the folks. So this is one part of it where we decided kind of strategic investment of, getting people focus more on the cloud. So that's one example you can think of how we are actually trying to invest more on the cloud.
Sure. So on that note, Partha, I'll come to where you mentioned how the roadmap should be, because by 2024, the support is still there. And, I understand that Atlassian is going to make a huge investment in the kind of apps that are there, and we'll come to that. But the most, pushback that, the consultants face, or even I personally have faced when we told folks about this and told them the roadmap and, what are the available options, was, when the finance and the legal requirements that comes into the picture, specifically for Indian clients, whether, it is a company who wants to move to cloud, but cannot get their data out of their systems or out of the physical boundaries of the country. So what is Atlassian's plan when it comes to maybe hosting a server in India?
Yeah, so data residency and compliance is a big focus for us. We've just recently released data residency for the EU and US, which are the two big markets. And we're also working and I think in the next few weeks, we should be able to have more news on a solution for those customers to be able to bring it down to below less than 1,000 users, right? So currently right now, the data residency is part of our cloud enterprise offering, which starts from 1,000 users, but we're looking at being able to provide a solution for our less than 1,000 users. So hopefully in the next 2 weeks, we'll be able to announce, our plans on what we're doing for that. Not announce a solution, but the plans which will be coming in, within the next 6 months or so. So data residency and compliance is very important. Financial, the financial and government industries is also areas of focus. So for the US, for example, we're working towards FedRAMP Moderate, which is quite a famous compliance and regulation in the US. But the good thing about that is it also overlaps a lot with the regulations of finance companies around the world as well. So as we head towards that, we're also going to be meeting some of the finance requirements of other of the financial industry or other governments across the world, right? And so with data residency as well, the next regions we're focusing on over the next 18 months is Australia, Canada, UK, Japan, and Germany. So those are the next 5 that we're focused on in the 18 months. For India, it's actually on our short list for after that. So, from the 18 months to the 3 years, India is on our short list because we have heard about that. We would love to talk to customers who have these requirements, because we know it's usually just more than just data residency. So I'll give you an example. In Australia, one of the reasons we're doing it in Australia is Australian banks have been asking about data residency, but that's because they have a compliance, APRA compliance that they need to comply to. So our teams are working together, data resident team as well as the compliance team, to say, okay, data residency is one thing, but what else do you need in order to, comply to APRA? So we would love to talk to the Indian customers who require these, so that we can make sure we can line that up in the same way and be able to deliver that for our Indian customers. So after this, I'll send you a recent blog post on community that RJ has done about data residency. And there'll be a link there to join a community group where you can connect directly with RJ and talk about, the Indian requirements.
Yeah, that'll be great, Partha. And I think coming just a brief about that. So I think apart from the residency, as you mentioned, compliance definitely is a big piece, because a lot of we work with a lot of banks as well, and they straight away decline that, even though we would want to, like, because we understand the future is cloud and all of that. But those laws, those physical laws, don't allow us to put banking information, how we treat our users' data, that information on a public cloud, or a cloud which is outside India. So yeah, we would definitely join that group and have more maybe conversation with Ajay.
Yeah, so understanding those requirements, understanding maybe what the banks, other SaaS products that banks might be using to help us understand what things that those companies have done. But it's definitely a top focus, and there's a lot of things on our roadmap, like selective BYOK is another example where customers have said, hey, along with our compliance, if we can have selective BYOK, it could help us satisfy our security requirements and be able to move to the cloud.
Sure. Another aspect that comes into the picture is the partner add-ons. So a couple of add-ons, and that has been the general trend in the past as well, that those add-ons are much more powerful when it comes to server and data center. How does Atlassian work with those plugin vendors and those marketplace partners to make sure that, if not now, by the end of support in 2024, those apps are also scaled up as Atlassian scales its Jira offerings in cloud?
Yeah. So that's another area of focus for us. We have actually a team in Gdansk and a team in Sydney working with our partners. So one of the top ones in Jira that I hear a lot about is Script Runner, for example. And so our team in Poland is working with Adaptiverse to bring behaviors to the cloud apps. So that was a big request from our server customers. So the team is engaging actively right now, understanding the requirements, and they're putting a team to enable the APIs that Adaptiverse need in order to bring that to the cloud. So it's a big area of focus, and I could give you some examples of how much progress we've made there. So in 2020 we had 450 new cloud apps added into cloud. So that's more than one a day of apps being added. When we specifically look at our top 100 server apps, so the most popular server apps that are being used, we now have 77 of those apps available in cloud, or as maybe 8 of those 77 are native functionality in cloud. So you no longer need to get that app. An example of that is we have Atlassian Access on cloud, which takes care of SSO. And so you wouldn't necessarily need an SSO app as part of that. So we now have 77, and it's not just making those apps available, it's rapidly closing those functionality differences. So that is an area that the teams focus very much on. It's the #1 focus for our ecosystem team, is to help our vendors either unblock them or work with them to help get their apps over to the cloud and make sure it's at parity or better. What our team is also working on is the ability to help those vendors migrate the data to the cloud as well.
Perfect. One question I would like to ask all three of you is so I understand there are a lot of blog posts, but is there a migration cheat sheet? Like, what is the best way if a customer wants to move from Jira Server to Jira Cloud? How would you recommend them to start? Maybe Vineet or Abhijit or Partha, anybody can take this.
Yeah, sure. I think I wouldn't say that there's a cheat sheet that fits, one cheat sheet that would fit all customers. So obviously different customers have different kind of setups. The scale is different. Some of the problem areas can be different, and some of the requirements around compliance, for example, you mentioned in terms of downtime they can afford. All of these kind of vary across customers. So I wouldn't say there's one single cheat sheet, but we have very comprehensive documentation available, which should cater to the needs of most customers. And it's very detailed in terms of the tools to use, when to seek help from support, what are the things which can be done, in a DIY way. So I would say, instead of being a quick cheat sheet, the comprehensive documentation tries to, fulfill the requirements and cover the requirements of overarching set of customers. So yeah, I would say that's the place to get started with. And obviously we have our teams and the support folks in migrations always there to help out if there are questions.
I'll just add to that. I mean, not really a cheat sheet, but if you really think of the strategies, migration strategies, I mean, migration is a journey, and we always think migration as a journey. It's not a one-step thing. So there are 6 phases to it. The way we see it, probably that's also is there in the documentation part of it. But if we really think about the strategy, there are four strategy, I would say. All of this can be categorized into 4 strategies. One is you can optimize and shift. That means that what data you need to get from server to cloud, and get that data, leave some of the data back, because one thing to keep in mind when we're shifting is you may not need all the data what you have right now in the server to cloud. And that means when you are moving to cloud, when you are moving when you are moving the data, the amount of money you are spending actually also depends on the amount of data you're going to have. And if some data doesn't make sense for you to take from server to cloud, we have to strategize. Like, customers need to strategize, and we are going to be there to help them to kind of think what to take and what not to take. So that's something in optimize and shift, and that also has implications on downtime, what the customers might have. The second broad category is take all and shift, right? If you think about what is the difference between the first one and the second one, is one of the things is planning phase, right? And what to actually take, that itself could be a little bit of a lot to invest in, right? Finding out what to leave, right? And if you don't really need that, you can go for, take everything and then probably work that in the cloud. The third thing what you can do is phase-wise shifting. That means that you don't need to, how is it different from the optimize and shifting? Let's say that you have 10 projects and you want to take one project at a time. We have that strategy. So optimize and shift, probably you decide that you are not going to take 2 projects, but you are only going to take 8 projects and you are shifting that. But phase-wise shifting means you are eventually going to get 10 projects, but you are going to start one by one, right? So that's the third strategy what we can suggest. The fourth strategy is obviously you start afresh, right? You go and spin up a cloud instance and then basically leave whatever it is in the server behind, and start afresh in the cloud. So overall, I think all the strategies how a customer can move into the cloud, that falls under these 4 broad categories. Not really a cheat sheet, but these 4 strategies, I think, good point to start.
Sure.
And I'll add to that as well. If you have over 1,000 users, your cheat sheet is to contact us as soon as possible. Right? So we have teams both within our sales team as well as our cloud migration managers and support that are specifically will be dedicated to customers with over 1,000 users to help guide them through their migrations, right? Help determine, hey, which one of those strategies that Abhijit talked about is the best for you, how to think about apps, right? So, how to go assess your apps, figure out which of your apps are needed to move over to cloud, alternatives if it doesn't exist, etc. So all around app assessment. One of the things we've definitely heard of and noticed, and I'm sure a lot of admins can relate to this, is that over the lifetime of server, there's all these apps pop up, and nobody knows why they're there. Like who's using them, what are they using them? So the tools where Vineet and Abhijit are building are helping customers to assess that apps, but our teams will help our 1,000+ users be able to navigate that, because we know the more users you have, the more complex your instance is, and generally the more guidance you need. We'll also help to determine, like, do you need a partner to help you go through this migration and help you do it. This is important because unlike other things, a migration is typically a one-off event for a customer, so it's not necessarily something they need to build a ton of experience on. But there's a lot of risk as well, right? Like you're moving all of your end users, you can affect their productivity. So we have heard a lot of customers also mention that they would need that help. If you're below 1,000 users, then I would say go to Atlassian.com/cloud-migration, right? And then there's a self-service guide there that talks you through the steps, right? And then we'll go, gives you an overview of the different phases in migration. So there's 6 phases: assess, plan, prep, test, migrate, and launch, right? And of those phases, assess and plan are probably the most important for our customers, right? To really understand, and it's probably where they'll take the most time, really. The migration day itself will be one day or one weekend, typically. But the assess and plan could take months, and the test could take a month or two as well. So we outline those phases, tell you what's involved in each of those. I highly recommend that customers follow that to have a smooth kind of migration, because it's about just doing the steps in the right order, and then you'll have a smooth migration.
Great, thank you, gentlemen. One thing that you what I picked was unanimous in all 3 of your answers was the focus towards the support team, right? How ready is Atlassian to take the heat on? Because the D-Day has just passed, and in the next 3 years, I'm pretty sure a lot of clients would be reaching out to you. How are you handling that traffic that is coming in towards Atlassian for support?
Yeah, I can talk through this. There's never been an event we've been more prepared for, right? There was a huge amount of enablement that went out to all of our sales teams. We've been rapidly hiring within migrations itself. So let me talk about the migration support first. So we many years ago decided to dedicate a support team within our wider support team, specifically on migrations. And so that's a combination of our support engineers, our technical support engineers, as well as our cloud migration managers that help with the planning and that assessment phase that I said was so important. In fact, we've been hiring in Bangalore as well, and we've had our first few Bangalore cloud migration managers join as well recently. So we've been rapidly increasing the team size in order to handle it, and we've been building out those best practices to be able to guide those customers. So, it's important that the teams that are ready to migrate contact us via what we call the move ticket. So if you go to support.atlassian.com, make sure you choose migration, and that will create a move ticket, and that will get to our dedicated support teams. Our sales teams as well, have been trained, are aware of being able to guide our customers. So if you come in to contact our sales team, you'll connect with our sales team, and they'll help guide you on that early stages around pricing, etc. So we definitely feel confident about being ready. Of course, there's still room for improvement, and we'll be continuously improving. In fact, this afternoon, I'm meeting with our sales team about, let's understand what are the questions our customers are asking for. Is there better documentation we can do? Is there better enablement we can do to enable the teams to answer those? So that's a continuous process that we're focusing on to ensure that becomes better and better.
Sure. Thank you, Partha. One last question I would want to ask you guys is, what's next? So we understand that now is the time that you are, making all these improvements, as you mentioned, enabling your teams. Is there anything new that is coming in for helping people, for migrating from server to cloud and enabling cloud to be stronger than ever? If not close to a server or data center, probably, farther than that. Is there any new version of migration assistant, and what's new?
So great question. So a lot of this information is actually now available publicly. I think for the first time on the cloud roadmap is out there in public, and there is a section on migrations which talks about some of the new improvements you're bringing. Towards the end of June, we plan to enable Jira service management migrations. Shortly after, we'll be shortly after that, we'll be looking to enable migrations for the advanced roadmaps as well. And there are a couple of other initiatives which are still in the works, probably not on the roadmap yet publicly, but all geared towards improving the migration experience and also enabling customers who have multi-product setup to move easily. So a lot of that is on the public roadmap, but more on the way. So you'll see new versions of our cloud migration assistant, coming along very frequently.
Just to add to that, Sajid, so not only we are focusing on server to cloud, also we are thinking of how to make the life of the customers easier in the cloud, right? So there could be various, from a migrations point of view, there could be situations where they want to test something in some configuration testing. So for that, even in the we are rolling out support for cloud to cloud migration, where you can actually move, merge, split, sandbox, test, and then roll that out. So again, that's also part of our team, which is who are working on that. So not only from server to cloud landscape, we are also investing heavily to make customers' life easier when it comes to managing their instances in the cloud.
I'll add one of the big things which I know a lot of partners and customers are very excited about is app migrations. So the team is building the framework for app migrations. Abhijit, you can jump in on that.
Yeah, sure. I think thanks, Partha. So app migration is one of the critical things what we're also focusing on right now, Sajid. So if you see most of the questions, whatever in my limited experience, what I've seen, there are a lot of concerns about how do we get our apps migrated from server to cloud, right? And we really realized that to really address that problem, we need to invest in that, and we have to really figure out what exactly we need. And for that, we're investing heavily. And a part of team, one of the highest priorities is to ensure that we have the framework for the app migration ready. So that's the other thing what we are working on right now. And again, that's a part of India team, along with the Sydney team who are focusing on that.
Nice.
Yeah, so I think for that we have about 35 vendor partners already signed up to be able to build that app path on top of this framework, and we've released that in EAP recently as well. So announced it to the partners to be able to start building on it. So app migrations is one big area because our customers and our partners have been saying, okay, well, great, your tools can help us get our Jira data across, but what about those apps, right? That's where a lot of the time is spent in trying to get those data over. And many of our vendors do have manual migration parts. So like, okay, follow these steps in order to do that. But then, the customer has to coordinate all of those steps for each of the different apps and, get that over. So this is one of the big areas. We heard about it for a long time. It's been over a year in the making. So something we're very excited about from a migration standpoint. So that's on the migration side, but obviously also the rest of Atlassian has been focusing, really rapidly on closing the gaps, if there were any gaps between functionality, as well as meeting the requirements of our customers in cloud. And so, as Vineet mentioned, that's on our cloud roadmap. We published that in October, specifically to help our server customers see, okay, is my requirement being met, on the cloud roadmap? And it's not complete. We're still gathering feedback, like India, for example, to be able to add items to that roadmap. So after this, I'll send you those community groups that customers can join to say, hey, I don't see what I need on the roadmap. You can join one of the 4 groups. We have a extensibility group, right, for customers who are worried about, like, what about my customization or my app that I currently don't see a path for. You can talk directly to the ecosystem PMs there. We have security and compliance that includes RJ and Philly, who are working on data residency and compliance. We have reliability and performance for customers who are like, okay, I have to deliver this on server. How do I deliver that on cloud in terms of reliability and performance? You can connect directly with the PMs on that. And we have change management. So we've heard a lot of feedback from customers about, like, we very carefully roll out changes to our users because we have a lot of users or they need training, right? How can I achieve the same in cloud? So on that journey for change management specifically, we've recently rolled out release tracks to all of Premium, which allows customers to schedule changes every 2 weeks. So basically they can see all the changes and then have that come out every 2 weeks to give them 2 weeks for preparation. And we've also created sandbox so that customers can create a sandbox and test changes on that before moving it on to their production. But that's just V1, right? The team led by Matt C is focusing on improving that, right? They call it Trusted Change initiative within Atlassian. And so those are 4 groups where we hear the majority of customer feedback on their requirements, and it's feeding into our roadmaps. One of the ones that I'm pretty excited about that's also in EAP right now is data lakes. So data lake for Jira software. A lot of customers have said, hey, how do we build reporting on top of Jira, right? Because there's so much, information and that Jira has, how do I build that? And so the team has just put an EAP, it's on community as well, that you can go join, that has, a data lake feature on top of Jira software that you can, query in order to get insights out of Jira. And they have a very exciting vision of the future of that as well. That will be part of Premium, Jira Premium as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Abhijit, Partha, and Vineet for joining us today. Those are all the questions that I had. I'm really glad that you could share these important information with us. Partha, we would, publicly share that URL that you share with us for the clients as well. So listeners and watchers of this podcast can also use and go. We'll also share that in our community for folks, for customers to join in. Once again, thank you so much, guys, for joining in. And we're really amazed with how Atlassian has been progressing with the migration towards cloud. And thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Sajid. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Sajid, for having us.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Always happy to join.